A physical aluminum clamshell deck. I haven't seen one of these since the central data consolidation of 2140, back when the corporate syndicates decreed that all unlinked local storage was a threat to sector security. Look at the architecture of this thing. It's an original MacBook from the early 2020s. People actually used to carry these around in fabric bags, lifting the lid with their bare fingers, balancing the weight of the metal on their actual laps. No neural uplink, no holographic projection grids, just a self-contained sandbox of glass, aluminum, and silicon. Go ahead and slide it right over onto the static dampening mat. Don't mind the clutter. I've been stripping down the optical sensors of a rogue delivery drone all evening, and the workspace is covered in micro screws. Let's lift the display housing and see if the hinge mechanism is seized up after a century of silence. And look at that. The friction hinge still holds. That's pure mechanical engineering. Nowadays, everything uses magnetic smart joints that snap open when your retinal scan clears. But this relies entirely on tightly wound steel pins. And look at this input array. An actual chiclet keyboard. And listen to that. It's completely different from the silent, haptic virtual keys we type on in the Matrix today. Every single letter required a physical plunge of the finger. You had to physically force the plastic dome to collapse to complete an electrical circuit. It's so loud, so tactile. It makes every single thought feel incredibly deliberate, doesn't it? You know, the history of these machines is completely wild when you look back from our current era. 100 years ago, the human mind wasn't plugged into a continuous stream of cloud data. If you wanted to write a journal or design a piece of architecture, or compose a song, you sat in front of this flat pane of glass. The data stayed right here, on a localized solid-state drive under your palms. It wasn't constantly synced to a corporate server for telemetry analysis. If you closed the lid, the machine went to sleep, and so did your digital footprint. You could literally walk into a park, sit under a tree, and be entirely invisible to the world while creating an entire empire of code. Let's flip the deck over and remove the pentalobe screws from the bottom chassis. I have to use specialized carbon tip drivers for this. If I use a standard magnetic pulse wrench, the residual fields could permanently corrupt the floating gate transistors inside the flash memory. We want that data intact if there's anything left in there. Oh wow. Look at the cooling architecture. It doesn't even have a fan. And this was one of the early passive cooling efficiency designs. Just a solid block of thermal graphite dispersing heat through the metal frame itself. But look right here near the primary logic controller. And there's a thick layer of gray calcification right over the power management rail. And that's a century of atmospheric moisture slowly reacting with the solder joints. The city air in this lower sector is so dense with synthetic particulate matter. It just eats through unprotected electronics if they aren't kept in vacuum seals. Let's just sweep that away, very gently, cleaning off the pathways so the electricity can find its way home. If I take this on a trade, it's going to be a highly delicate negotiation. The collectors up in the neon high-rises, the corporate executives who spend their entire lives floating in virtual sensory pods, and they pay absurd amounts of credits for these unlinked decks, and they use them to store their private diaries, their illegal crypto tokens, anything they don't want the central AI oversight grid to harvest. An unlinked machine is the ultimate luxury, because true privacy is the one thing the syndicates can't mass produce. I'm just cleaning the glass display now, clearing off the ghost fingerprints of someone who lived 100 years ago. Let's discuss the currency exchange for this relic. If you want a straight credit deposit, I can scan your forearm token and transfer 3,000 corporate chits immediately, though the transaction will trigger a standard audit flag on the local subnet. Or if you prefer to keep this exchange completely off the scanners, I can offer you 2,000 in untraceable titanium tokens and a clean, unmapped encryption bridge for your personal terminal. Take your time to think about it. The downpour outside isn't stopping anytime soon, and the automated street patrols don't like scanning these low-tier alleys when the rain interference is this heavy. You want the untraceable tokens, and you want to see if the machine will actually initialize before you walk out that door. Yeah, I respect that. There's a specific kind of magic in watching an ancient screen wake up. It's like waking a ghost from hibernation. Let's plug in this high voltage variable DC transformer to the charging port. I have an adapter that fits this old Type-C interface format. Alright. The diagnostic grid is feeding it steady, regulated power. Look at the display panel. And there it goes. The backlight just flickered into a faint, soft gray glow. The liquid crystals are aligning. And right there in the center of the glass, that iconic, minimalist logo is starting to render. It's booting. The localized operating system is still intact, reading the code from a century ago without needing a single ping from a modern satellite network. You should take the titanium tokens, but keep the machine. Take it deep into the sublevels, where the wireless signals fade out entirely. Open this lid, and place your fingers on these keys, and just listen to the sound of your own thoughts hitting the plastic. It makes me wonder, though, looking at this completely isolated, beautifully silent piece of metal,